Hey, what's up YouTube? This is FriedVice, and today we're going to be taking a look at which Smash Bros. Characters are going to be the A students, and which ones are going to be the F students. I'm FriedVice, and I am actually employed as a high school physics teacher when I'm not doing YouTube videos, and hopefully you enjoy this. So without further ado, let's start with Mario. So I think Mario is probably, if you look in Smash Bros. And Nintendo, he's an all-around kind of just average at pretty much everything. But however, he is employed as a plumber, we know, and I think if Mario was in school, particularly high school, I think Mario would be more focused on those like woodshop classes or metalworking classes, and I don't think he'd be quite as focused on his academics. I'm actually going to put Mario all around as a C student, but he is going to be doing pretty well in those other classes there. Next up, we have Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong is your weightlifter bro that's just always spending time in the gym at school. He gets good grades in PE, but however, most people don't know Donkey Kong is actually quite good at math. So I think Donkey Kong is actually going to be sitting up there at a also C, but some classes he struggles with. I don't think he's so good at English, but his math skills are pretty good. I also think Donkey Kong, though, is a C student. Okay, next up we have Link. Link's favorite subject in school is art. Link does not speak much. He doesn't get much chances to really, get himself out there and express himself. But Link really likes art. And actually, overall, Link, I think, is a pretty solid B student. Okay, next up we have Samus. Samus is actually her favorite subject, I think, is going to be foreign languages. Samus loves traveling. Samus loves going to new places. Samus is just, I'd say, probably also sitting up there as a B student. Samus probably could be an A student, but is more focused on just travel and misses a lot of school, actually. Next up, we have Dark Samus. Now, Dark Samus is actually very similar to Samus in terms of, liking to travel and doing things like that, except Dark Samus also kind of experiments with a lot of chemistry, Phazon in particular, and I think, but I'd say Dark Samus is actually also going to be sitting there as a B student. Okay, next up is Yoshi, and Yoshi is actually, for some reason, skipped a bunch of grades and is actually supposed to be in like 5th grade, and for some reason is in high school and can't handle it. I don't think Yoshi's parents might have sent Yoshi forward too much, but Yoshi is just not mature enough for high school, and Yoshi's actually barely pulling it with a D. Okay, next up is Kirby, and Kirby gets pretty good grades, but that's not because Kirby is smart or works hard. Kirby just literally copies other people. Kirby is, for some reason, never gotten caught copying, but Kirby is always copying everybody. But sometimes Kirby copies the wrong people, which is why Kirby doesn't have an A. Okay, next up we have Fox. And Fox is that person in school that, thinks he's really cool. Fox is actually a little bit short, and so sort of has that a little bit of machismo attitude where he's a little short and he's trying to make up for it. He's trying to overcompensate, but I'd say overall Fox is actually going to be the A- student. That's where we're going to put Fox. Okay, next up is Pikachu. And Pikachu is that kid who comes to school every single day in his like bright yellow onesie. Pikachu actually doesn't even wear shoes. The teachers sometimes get mad at Pikachu. Pikachu's favorite class is physics, but Pikachu isn't actually good at physics. He just really likes learning about static electricity and shocking people. And I actually think we're going to put Pikachu overall, though, as a D student. Pikachu is just too all over the place there. Next up is Luigi. Luigi is very similar to Mario, except Luigi's a little quieter, a little less popular, but actually Luigi gets slightly better grades. Not people know that. Even though Luigi comes off as not as bright, Luigi does end up spending more time studying because he doesn't really get to hang out with as many people. So Luigi's actually going to be a little higher up, a little like a C+ student there. Next up is Ness. Ness is that kid that was homeschooled his whole life until high school, and now Ness is here. Ness is actually pretty bright, but doesn't really know how to interact with other people very well, except he's exceptionally good at baseball. Ness is definitely on the baseball team, but still, he's sort of that awkward kid in some situations. But Ness is still sitting up there as a B+ student, actually better than Link. Okay, next is Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon is literally just here to play football. Captain Falcon actually got held back a few times, and on the football field, all the kids are like, Is he even a high schooler? How old is this guy? Captain Falcon is like almost 20, still in high school, but he's just here to play football. Captain Falcon's barely squeaking it, but he does enough just to keep on the team. Next is Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff loves choir class. Jigglypuff loves to sing. But in terms of the rest of Jigglypuff's grades, it's not looking so good. Jigglypuff does not like to focus and spend a lot of time on doing things that Jigglypuff's not good at. And Jigglypuff is also another one of our D students. Next up, we have Peach. And Peach is actually quite a good student. Peach is like your model student here. And actually, I think Peach is going to be sitting up at the... we're going to say Peach probably gets A's. I think Peach gets A's. Next is Daisy. Daisy is sort of like Peach. Peach is a good friend, but Daisy is a lot more into playing sports, and Daisy commits more of her time to her extracurricular activities other than studying. And Daisy's actually going to be sitting up here, I think, as a B student instead of an A student. All right, next is Bowser. Now, Bowser is interesting. Bowser's a bully. Bowser's the high school bully, and Bowser is actually getting D's. But the reason Bowser's not failing is because he forces all of his sort of minions, his friends, they just hang out with him because they're afraid of him to help him get better grades, and he only keeps up when he starts to get into that failing range. He's just here to pass. Okay, next up we have that couple in high school that have literally been together their whole life, and you're like, oh, okay, just get married already or something. The Ice Climbers, they're actually solid B students, but they're kind of at the B- range, mostly just because they help each other out. They help each other out with their weaknesses there. You're going to see that we probably have a lot of B students here. Next up is Chic. Chic is actually, surprisingly, not a good student, and the reason for that is because Chic spends so much of her time working on her extracurricular activities. Chic is, in fact, a C student. Chic loves gymnastics. Chic loves anything like to do with track and field, things like that. Chic also, believe it or not, Chic is a volleyball player. I'm not sure if you were aware. Chic is on the volleyball team. Next up, we have Zelda. Now, Zelda is actually a very good student. Zelda spends so much of her time studying and focusing and learning, but in some ways, she's still a little bit naive in terms of how the rest of the world works, but she's still an A student, and her favorite subject is definitely English. Next up, we have Dr. Mario. And Dr. Mario is actually not a student. No. You can't be a student with a PhD. Dr. Mario... Some people think he's the school nurse. No, Dr. Mario is not even the school nurse. Dr. Mario is the principal of the school of Smash Bros. High, if we would call it. Dr. Mario is the principal. He has got his doctorate. He's overqualified to be the principal here, and he's very focused on nutrition now. Okay, next up is Pichu. Pichu is, believe it or not, yes, also a high school student. The younger brother of Pikachu. Very similar to Pikachu in a lot of ways, but really wants to stand out more, so tries to do all this crazy stuff like parkour and jumping around, and all the other kids are like, what are you doing? And Pichu ends up hurting himself a lot, and Pichu really is not focused on being successful. Pichu is unfortunately failing. Next up is Falco. Falco is also another A student, and Falco's favorite class is, in fact, chemistry. Falco really likes chemistry, and no, not a lot of people are sure why Falco likes chemistry, but Falco really likes chemistry, just because. All right, next is Marth. Marth's favorite subject in school is actually history. Marth is an avid history buff, just loves history, very focused on studying history. Although Marth's weak point is actually math. Pretty good at the other subjects, but math is Marth's weak point, but that's actually going to put Marth at the B spot. Marth would be a pretty good student. Next is Lucina. Lucina is actually... not canonically, but in school, Lucina and Marth are actually twins. And it was this really weird thing at first where Lucina kept pretending to be Marth, and there was a period of time where they kept swapping spots, and people weren't really sure who was who. But then eventually, after they were in school long enough, Lucina started to grow her hair out. She tried to be a little bit more different from Marth, and people finally learned how to tell them apart. But they're both going to be up there as B students. Next is Young Link. Link's younger brother. Young Link actually is going to be also another D student. Young Link really enjoys just basically recess. That's his favorite period. Young Link really enjoys the lunches at school. You always see Young Link with that carton of milk. Just glug, 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 glug. Always drinking the cartons of milk. Next up, we have Ganondorf, and Ganondorf actually is also not a student. Ganondorf is one of the staff members, and we're going to say Ganondorf is, in fact, I'd say Ganondorf is going to be our math teacher. Yeah, Ganondorf's a math teacher, mostly because he just loves to see his students just really struggle. He's like that really, really hard teacher, and he's always trying to, in fact, he's kind of trying to fail students a lot. Very disrespectful as well to students. Okay, next up is Mewtwo. Also, Mewtwo is also not a student. Mewtwo is a biology teacher. Mewtwo loves biology, especially genetics. Mewtwo is always so engrossed in that. Mewtwo actually spends less time teaching and more time actually focusing on Mewtwo's own experiments, and so Mewtwo isn't actually the best teacher either. Next, we have Roy. Roy is your all-around, basically perfect high school student. Roy is the star of the football team. He pretty much outshines Falcon in most ways. Falcon is like your running back. Roy is the quarterback, of course. Roy is always calling the shots. And Roy is actually also like a solid A student. Roy is actually taking some of those AP classes. You're not really sure, Roy, how did you become such a great student all around? Roy's just always doing it. Good job, Roy. Okay, next we have Chrom. And Chrom is actually he's on the soccer team. Chrom really likes soccer. He likes running fast. He likes getting in there. He doesn't like to use his hands very much. That's just the rule of soccer. And Chrom also really enjoys. Chrom also enjoys history. Chrom is another history buff. And Chrom's a C student though. Chrom's just a C student. Okay, next we have Game & Watch. Game & Watch is that kid in high school that's always pulling pranks on people. He's always, trying to get people's attention. He's kind of the class clown, goofing off always in class. But Game & Watch is actually, unfortunately, an F student. Game & Watch does not spend any time learning. Although if he had to pick a favorite class, it would be math, but he's only really good at counting from 1 to 9. Okay, next is Meta Knight. And Meta Knight is actually Kirby's cousin. And Meta Knight actually got to be an A student on his own. Meta Knight works his butt off. Meta Knight is also that kid in school that's kind of edgy, kind of like a little bit, doesn't really get along super well with the other kids, is always trying to do things on his own, be looking really cool, dresses very, out there, likes to hide his face a lot. He wore masks before it was cool or before, you were supposed to. So that's Meta Knight. Pitt is an F student. Unfortunately, Pitt tries really hard, but Pitt still doesn't even know how to read. Somehow he got past kindergarten and first grade, and they just kept passing him through because he was just so lovable. I mean, the teachers liked him, so they felt bad for him, so they passed him, but he really shouldn't have passed. So I don't know how that happened. Dark Pit is basically the same thing as Pitt, but kind of smarter, so Dark Pit's actually a C student. Dark Pit is also super edgy. Dark Pit, believe it or not, he's like one of those kids both of them for some reason are like avid into archery. They are actually brothers, but they hate each other. They don't like each other at all. People love Pit, people don't like Dark Pit, but they both are into archery. Next up, we have Zero Suit Samus, and Zero Suit Samus is a cheerleader 100%. She is on the cheer squad. Zero Suit Samus actually spends less time studying than her other self when she's wearing the suit. Basically, Zero Suit Samus is more focused on how she looks. Zero Suit Samus's goal in life is to be a vlogger. Next is Wario. Yikes. Yeah, Wario is actually another staff member. Wario is, unfortunately, also the history teacher, and Wario is just kind of nasty. The history rooms, for some reason, are in the portables in the way backside of the school, where it kind of is smelly, it's stinky. You walk into Wario's room, and it sort of smells like sour milk, and you're not really sure what Wario does there. Does Wario sleep in his classroom? What is going on? People claim that they learn things, and there's some random students that say they really love Wario's class, but most are just so happy when they finally out of the class. Next is Snake, and Snake is actually going to be another staff member. Snake teaches, what does Snake teach? Snake's going to be an English teacher. You didn't expect that, did you? No, Snake is an English teacher, and the reason he's an English teacher is because, he doesn't like getting involved. Snake, he doesn't like to have to grade in a way that really makes sense. He just likes to read the essay and just kind of look at it and go, And he grades them actually based off of how far he can throw the essays. So the more you write and the further he can throw them, the further he can send them as a projectile, the well, the higher grade you get. So if you're in Snake's class, just write a lot and just print out extra pages. Next up, we have Ike. And Ike is very similar to Roy in which he is a top of the class. He's also very likable. He's very good at sports. Except Ike actually plays basketball. He's really good at jumping. He has a very high vertical lift. Ike does. But Ike is not quite as smart as Roy. And Ike is actually going to be a B student. Next up, we have the Pokemon Trainer. Pokemon Trainer is that kid who brings his pets to class all the time. Pokemon Trainer actually is training to become a person who trains like seeing eye dogs and stuff. So he's always got like a pet in class, and kids always think it's so fun. But Pokemon Trainer is not like goofing off with his pets. He's like, nope, you need to sit there. No, you don't get the cookie. And people are always asking to play with Pokemon Trainer's Pokemon, but he says no a lot. But otherwise, Pokemon Trainer's a C student. Next up, we have Diddy Kong, and this is what it's like to be in Diddy Kong's class. Diddy Kong, sit down. Diddy Kong, put that back. No, Diddy Kong, get down. No, okay, go outside, Diddy Kong, go outside. Diddy, no. Yeah, so that's basically what it's like. Diddy Kong is an F student. Diddy Kong's that student that could easily be like a C, but just cannot sit still, has constant ADHD, and oh boy, it's a nightmare when you're in Diddy's class. Okay, next is Lucas. Lucas is that kid who spends most of his time in the bathroom just playing with his like toys. Like he loves to play like with his yo-yo, and he has like a pet snake actually, and people are like, what are you doing with your snake? Like that's kind of weird. Actually, I don't think he has a yo-yo, but he would be one of those kids who would play like cards in the bathroom or something, and you're like, Lucas, what are you doing? And he just kind of stares at you. He was also homeschooled, so he didn't really learn super well how to interact with other people, and he just kind of looks at you and just like never blinks. We'll get to someone else who never blinks soon. But otherwise, Lucas is just a D student. Next is Sonic. Sonic is so fast. Sonic is a D student, but he could be much higher, except Sonic's number one goal is to finish all of his schoolwork as fast as possible. He's always the first one to complete the test, the first one to finish his work, and he just sits there like twiddling his thumbs in class, and he just like, and you're just like, Sonic, just chill, slow down. You can take more time. You finish that test in like 5 minutes. Everyone else takes 30. Sonic's like, nope, I just fill the bubbles in as fast as I can. All right, whatever, Sonic. Okay, next is DDD. DDD is actually another staff member. DDD teaches art. He teaches art. DDD's an art teacher. He actually really loves like pottery. DDD's like the pottery teacher, the art teacher. Sometimes he teaches photo and film. He always has like a posse following him around of like the students who really enjoy those kind of things. Other than that, DDD is well known in the school for just constantly eating. DDD attends lunch multiple times a day. He's always cutting in front of people in line as well. Next up is Olimar. Olimar loves biology. Olimar is so excited. Olimar's goal in life is to be an astronaut, and Olimar spends a lot of time studying. Olimar is an A student. His goal is to be an astronaut. He's trying to learn all of the science classes, biology, chemistry, physics. He's trying to learn everything he possibly can because he wants to be an astronaut. But Olimar doesn't really make a lot of friends, unfortunately. Next up, we have Lucario, and Lucario is unfortunately one of those students who really, really loves to make fun of himself. Lucario is like constantly has like self-depreciating humor. Lucario is often like doing things that end up hurting himself. Lucario is trying to do stuff to get attention. People already think Lucario is pretty cool. Like, Lucario, you don't have to do all this crazy stuff. Lucario films himself doing embarrassing things. Lucario is unfortunately also the one that also just loves to, constantly seeking adrenaline, also loves horror films and things like that. But otherwise, Lucario is just a C student. Next, we have Rob. And Rob is actually not a student. Technically, he's not part of the staff. Rob is actually the router, the Wi-Fi routers at school, and all of the computers. Rob is basically your school's Wi-Fi connection, and sometimes Rob is just goofing off, not giving you the best Wi-Fi. It's almost like he's just spinning around like a top, just kind of leaning left and right, and then you're like not sure what kind of Wi-Fi you're gonna have. Next up, we have Toon Link. This is actually Young Link's brother. They both are D students. A lot of people they're kind of twins, but they're definitely not identical twins. It's pretty easy to tell them apart, although sometimes they're like, wait, which one is that? But yeah, Toon Link doesn't really stand out much from his brothers, Young Link and Link, except he's just way goofier. So that's how people are able to tell them apart. Next we have Wolf. And Wolf is actually he's also an A student. Wolf is another A student, but he doesn't get along with a lot of people. In fact, he has a bitter rivalry with Fox, and in fact, they both are competing at all times to have the best grade in the class. Okay, next up is Villager. And Villager is actually a D student. Villager doesn't spend a lot of time studying, but Villager really kind of just spends most of his time collecting things. He's like that kid in class that is giving the teachers lots of presents, which is really cool. The teachers like Villager, but also Villager doesn't really say much. So not a lot of people get to know Villager. Okay, we were talking earlier about people who just kind of stand there and stare. And sometimes you're in class and you're like, is this a person? Are you actually a person or are you like a robot? And Mega Man is that person that you're not sure is real human or not. Mega Man never blinks. Mega Man gets perfect scores on literally everything. Never really shows emotion either, and you're super confused. Like, are you actually a human? Okay, next up we have our PE teacher. That is the Wii Fit trainer. Wii Fit trainer is obviously the PE teacher. Never really dresses professionally, but somehow she gets away with it. In fact, doesn't really even wear shoes that often. Yeah, there's a Wii Fit trainer for you. She's also the coach of the volleyball team. Okay, next up we have Rosalina and Luma. Rosalina was in fact crowned the homecoming queen. Rosalina has her kind of her posse following her around as Luma. Rosalina actually only has Luma follow her around to make her look better. But Rosalina actually is a D student. She spends so much of her time just trying to up her image that she doesn't focus a lot on studying. Next is Little Mac. Little Mac is one of those kids in high school that didn't choose to take one of the many options that the school had for sports and really just wanted to focus on boxing. He tried out wrestling for a little bit and he kind of was on the wrestling team, but he just got disqualified and kicked off the team because he kept punching people. He is, in fact, the track team keeps trying to scout him because he's really fast too, but he just is so focused on boxing. That's kind of what he wants to do with the rest of his life. Otherwise, he's actually a C student. Next is Greninja. Greninja is one of those kids who runs around with their arms behind them, Naruto running literally everywhere. Although Greninja also wears a scarf every single day. People kind of like Greninja. He's just very, very quiet. But then also a lot of people are sort of afraid of Greninja, not sure what he's going to do. People are sort of worried that Greninja might bring something to school that he shouldn't be bringing to school. Yeah, Greninja's had his locker searched on more than one occasion and had things confiscated. He tries to bring his shuriken to school. He claims just it's in self-defense, but we're not really sure there. Okay, next we have the Miis. The Miis are so forgettable. They're actually not even good students, to be honest. They're just very forgettable. People have a hard time telling them apart. People aren't really sure I guess you're here. They're friends with each other, but that's kind of it. They have only inside jokes, and nobody really gets to spend much time with the Miis. They're actually all F students too. Somehow they just are still here, just kind of doing their own thing. Next is Palutena. And Palutena is one of the vice principals at the school. Palutena oversees a lot of the things. Dr. Mario is kind of the face of the school and in charge of kind of the big decisions, but Palutena is the one that runs a lot of the stuff that happens behind the scenes. So Palutena is always making sure things happen the way they should. All right. Next up, we have Pac-Man. Pac-Man is actually also on the school staff. Pac-Man is one of the school counselors. Pac-Man's always trying to tell you, this is going to be your career path. Here's your career path. But Pac-Man is also pretty much tries to steer everybody in the exact same direction. And he just tells them they should all be exorcists trying to get rid of ghosts. And he thinks it might be a joke, but a lot of people like Pac-Man, we need legitimate jobs. Please help us. Next is Robin. Robin is one of the top students at the school. Robin is so focused. Robin's always in the library. Robin has got one of the heaviest backpacks, always carrying around books. Robin loves school, but Robin doesn't make a lot of friends, unfortunately. Okay, next is Shulk. Shulk is also extremely good at sports, and Shulk's favorite sport is soccer. Yeah, Shulk is on the soccer team. Shulk really likes soccer. He's always talking about how much he likes to run around, and he's very fast. Yeah, but I don't know a lot about Shulk. Okay, next up we have Bowser Jr. And Bowser Jr. basically follows Bowser around everywhere, except Bowser Jr. does not have the same drive as Bowser to just pass classes. So Bowser Jr. is actually failing most of his classes. Yeah, unfortunately. Again, like I said, Bowser just wants to be passing, but doesn't really care otherwise, and only freaks out when he starts to fail. Next is Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt is another kid who just comes to school every day, dressed in his dog onesie and with a bird puppet. And Duck Hunt doesn't actually speak to people directly. Duck Hunt only communicates with the bird puppet. And Duck Hunt actually is not a very good student, unfortunately. He's a D student. You notice we have a lot of students that are not so great, unfortunately. Next up, we have Ken. Ken is a good student. Ken is on the wrestling team. He learned judo his whole life. Ken is actually a B student. Ken is pretty good. Ken, his favorite subject in school is actually Spanish. Ken loves Spanish for some. Am I calling him Ken? That's Ryu. Sorry. Ryu loves Spanish. Ken is also a good student. Ken also likes to learn Spanish. They both want to learn Spanish for some reason. Other foreign languages too. Their goal is to just take this world journey at some point together. But they're also bitter rivals. They're both trying to be. They're in the same weight class, and they're both trying to be the top spot on the school wrestling team. Next up is Cloud. Cloud is also somebody who is kind of just a C student overall. Cloud is very, very quiet. Cloud is very, very popular with the ladies. A lot of the girls at school really seem to like Cloud. He doesn't talk a lot. He's just kind of in the back. He also is one of those kids with just the biggest backpack that has a lot of heavy things in it, and he just hangs it really low as well. It probably has a lot of back problems carrying around that heavy backpack. Okay, next is Koren. Koren's another one of those students that you kind of forget about. Koren is a B student. Koren, yeah, a lot of people just forget about Koren, unfortunately. She's kind of outshined by a lot of the people that are very similar to her. So sorry, Koren. You're often forgotten, unfortunately. Okay, next is Bayonetta. Bayonetta teaches. Bayonetta's another one of the math teachers. And unfortunately, Bayonetta's the one that had that sort of that scandal, and you weren't sure if Bayonetta was going to keep her job. Bayonetta doesn't really dress appropriately. Bayonetta is a little bit, on the less politically correct side of things as well. So Bayonetta's, you're a little bit worried that Bayonetta's going to be a teacher next year, but for some reason, a lot of the male students like to be in Bayonetta's class. Next up, we have Inkling. Inkling is just a very lovable student all around. Inkling's a C student. Inkling's actually one of those transfer students from Japan, and people really like Inkling, but Inkling hasn't really learned English yet. So people have a hard time understanding Inkling, but have a lot of fun. Inkling's also that kid that comes to school with a squirt gun in the middle of summer, or right before summer starts, and starts squirting people. Okay, next up. Oh boy, we have Ridley. Ridley is a D student. Ridley unfortunately has a condition where Ridley grew a lot. Ridley is on the basketball team. Not because Ridley's good at basketball, but because Ridley is 6'8" in high school. A lot of people are like, Ridley, you're too tall for this, but Ridley still comes to school. Ridley is not in the healthiest of position because of Ridley's medical condition that makes Ridley tall, but otherwise, yeah, Ridley's on the basketball team, and Ridley does want to go to college, but I don't know if Ridley's going to make it because Ridley doesn't spend a lot of time studying. Okay, next up we have Simon. Simon is a C student. Simon is very focused on basically eliminating and just trying to complete assignments. Simon is just there to complete assignments. Simon doesn't really go back and focus and study a lot, but Simon always is completing everything. Simon completes the assignments. Next, we have Richter. Richter's basically the same thing as Simon. Does all the same stuff, but Richter's a lot more popular. Richter has girlfriend after girlfriend after girlfriend. Richter's that person that you're like, should I ask them about Richter, should I ask him about your girlfriend, or are you gonna have another one already? So you're not really sure what to say with Richter about that. Okay, next up we have K. Rool. K. Rool is another assistant principal, but actually in charge of discipline. K. Rool's in charge of discipline at the school, and unfortunately, he's not very good about the discipline. He lets a lot of the kids off the hook at some times, and a lot of the other teachers are like, "K. Rool, you really need to get better with your discipline." Although he never lets Diddy and Donkey Kong off the hook if they get in trouble. Next up, we have Isabel. Isabel's very cute, just a great student all around. Isabel is in fact an A student. A lot of people love Isabel. She doesn't have a lot going for her in terms of her extracurricular activities, but she's always the one that's helping the teacher out. She's constantly a TA for teachers, does a lot of extra work, and always does the extra credit. Next up, we have Incineroar. Incineroar is also on the wrestling team, except he actually was a B student for a while, but then he finally got caught cheating. And unfortunately, if you get caught cheating too many times, you end up getting a 0 on your assignments, and so Incineroar is currently a failing. Incineroar is an F student, unfortunately. Sorry, Incineroar. Next up is Piranha Plant. Piranha Plant is one of these scenarios where Piranha Plant is not a student, but Piranha Plant's technically not staff either. Piranha Plant is just one of those plants that's in the biology room, and you swear it keeps moving. Like it wasn't there a moment ago, and now it's somewhere else. Some people think that Mewtwo is performing experiments on Piranha Plant. All right, next up we have Joker. Joker is actually an excellent student. Joker is one of the top students at the school. Joker has plans on going straight to college. He's trying to be one of the valedictorians. That's his goal. Joker is constantly one of the best. People are always saying he's one of the best, constantly trying to rank him and decide where he lands in terms of his class rank. That's all he cares about is his class rank. He doesn't really necessarily care so much about learning, but being the best. Next is Hero. Hero constantly is just swinging up and down with his grades, although Hero's favorite class is statistics. Hero loves learning about statistics and math and things like that, although some of his other subjects aren't so good. Sometimes he's up here as a B student, sometimes he's a D, but in the end he averages around as a C student. Okay, next we have Banjo and Kazooie. Banjo is in the band. Banjo loves to play his instruments all the time. Banjo has a lot of friends in the band. There's a lot of people that Banjo is really... He has like a small group of people he's really popular with, but outside of that group of people, not many people know him. Not many people have spent time with him, but Banjo just wishes that if people got to know him more, they would see him for who he really is. Other than that, though, Banjo is just a C student. Okay, next we have Terry. Terry is another really popular student. In terms of grade-wise, Terry is actually a B student as well. Terry is really popular. Although he kind of is a little bit dated in his fashion, he still wears a lot of things that might have been popular in the 90s, but people don't really mind him for it. In fact, a lot of people are like, Terry might actually be bringing that style back here. Terry also has really long hair. He's one of those guys in high school that had really long hair, never decided to cut it, and then until your 10-year high school reunion, you notice, like, who is this guy? And he actually finally cut his hair, and he ended up, becoming a lawyer for some reason. Lastly, we have Byleth, and Byleth is one of the teachers at the school, of course. Byleth could literally teach any subject. Byleth is constantly switching around which subject Byleth is teaching. She sometimes teaches math, she's sometimes teaching science, English, history, foreign languages, but Byleth's favorite passion that Byleth loves to teach is either English or foreign languages, sometimes history. That's where Byleth loves to shine. And, well, guys, we've now decided where everybody fits on your high school tier list, I suppose, in terms of grades and what they do and what they enjoy doing in school. So if you enjoyed this kind of content, please make sure you subscribe, hit the like button on this to tell me that you guys like to see more stuff like this. If you just like me, you can check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/FriedViceCube. A link will be in the description as well. We're playing some Pokemon games right now. We might play in some other games soon. Other than that, thanks so much for watching, guys. Please, we'll see you next time. Bye.